Network. And you know what? I'm going to call it, I'm live from the Wild West because I'm in the United States of America. And why is today the Wild West of America in the United States? Because the Democratic Party thinks they're Democrats. And they think that those two names are synonymous with one another. And I got my good friend and partner in Montreal, Quebec. He lives in another Wild West called Quebec. And we're going to start talking about all kinds of crap today because it's really, I think David's got steam coming out of his ears today. David, tell me what you're feeling.
Well, it's not quite steam. It's just an annoyance towards the hypocrisy. And I'll start it from the beginning. You and I have been speaking to quite a few people who continue to love to push the narrative that it's only the Republicans that are the threat to the democracy. That Republicans, all Republicans, are threats to the democracy. This is the mantra that's been spewed. The White House has been spewing it. Our good friend Nancy Pelosi has been spewing it. The media has been spewing. And of course, the lovers of the Democratic Party who believe that there's nothing wrong with the Democratic Party are spewing it. And yet it's very interesting how they like to ignore some of the signs that are kind of eerily, how do I put it, in your face about the threat to democracy. Okay, if you're going to say that the GOP is the threat to democracy, which, by the way, I don't think it is, but let's go with that statement. If, in fact, it is, then explain to me the following couple of stories. So, last year, Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas was told that a photographer took a picture at the border with Haitian migrants, and the interpretation, yes, Stuart, thank you very much. The interpretation of that was that the Border Patrol was whipping these migrants. Of course, the Biden administration went apeshit, loved this picture because here, once again, proof positive of American racism. The white racists of America, and that we're terrible. And then, of course, his lackey, Kamala Harris, spewed the same thing. How dare they? Blah, 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 blah. All that bullshit that they love to spew. White supremacy, racism in America. We've got to fix it. But lo and behold, Secretary Mayorkas gets an note saying it's not even close to the truth, that there were no migrants being whipped. And yet he went out in a press conference, September of 2021, and said the same thing, that there were migrants were whipped. And he went on and spewed the exact same lie, spun the same lie. Now, an email was obtained by the Heritage Foundation, by the Freedom of Information Act, and apparently it shone the light that, opalai, a couple of hours after they received the photo, they were told, no, that they were using split reins to control their horses and not the migrants. And, based on the narrative, this misinterpretation didn't matter. They went on this rant. They refused to acknowledge the truth. So, hey, MSNBC, CNN, and all you bastards out there in the liberal media, where are your fact checkers now? I know where they are. I know where they are.
Fact checkers are only to dispute Republican narrative. But I want to just one up at Mayorkas. It's not only Mayorkas. President Biden from the Preacher's Post said that, and they went after these Border Patrol agents with venomous bites to, first of all, take them out of the field, to promise to go after them even after they were found to be innocent of all of it. You know what? The Democratic is an assassination squad. That's what they do. I got a very good favorite cousin who will tell me, why do you spew such hatred?
I told you.
No, he asked, why do we spew such hatred? Why did you know what? I challenge my good cousin.
No. Leave it. This is not your cousin's channel. And if you have a family squabble, go have dinner with him. What I'm saying to you is he is just one of the many Democrat lovers who continue to believe that the Democrats could do doing no wrong. Crazy thing is that 2.5 hours after receiving the email, Mayorkas joined Jen Psaki to rip them. He said, quote, "Our nation saw horrifying images that do not reflect who we are. We know that those images painfully conjured up the worst elements of our nation's ongoing battle against systemic racism." What? Again,
Hey,
if you're telling me, Stuart, hold on. If you're telling me that the White House, that starts with Biden, Kamala Harris, Jen Psaki, and now Mayorkas, are saying that the only thing we could do is lie to the population of the United States and the world, kudos to you. Now, Stuart, let's take it one step further, okay? Shall we, please? Because this week, Tulsi Gabbard, who is a representative of in Hawaii, has left the Democratic Party. And I want to tell you, Democrats are thrilled. Liberal media, thrilled. You know why? Because they said that Tulsi Gabbard did not reflect what the Democratic Party stood for. That she was too independent minded. She challenged them. Okay, let me give you a couple of her quotes. This is a beaut. I mean, this is a real beaut from Tulsi Gabbard. Okay, she said she cannot understand. She says that the Democratic Party are controlled by fanatic ideologues who hate freedom. Are we listening, cousin? They despise the Constitution. They actually find ways to undermine our God given rights enshrined in the Constitution, like freedom of speech. So here's the thing, she cannot express herself. She said, I either conform or get canceled. That's not a threat to democracy.
did you hear the latest where Nancy Pelosi's daughter, a film producer or film artist, recorded her mother saying, if he would have shown up here, I would have punched him and I would have gone to jail and I would have been a happy person. This is the insanity, just like Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who said, I want to step on the necks of every Republican, just like Hillary Clinton, the basket of deplorables. David, I'm going to ask you a question. You're a professor at a university. Do you call the Democratic Party a Democrat?
No, I don't call them Democratic. I don't call them. See, here's my problem. Here's the problem.
Thank you. I saw I got stuck in my brain there.
I just want to. I forget about the professor because you just insulted all the colleagues I work with. But here's the thing. I want to understand that if someone is going to evaluate and judge Republicans for their remarks, for their statements, for their beliefs, then so should the Democrats. And they should be held on the same judgment. But God forbid we should do that. Because, what the White House wants to spew, and I don't know if you heard Jen Psaki while she was in the White House, was whatever you do, lie about the Democrats in the election in the fall. She's now on MSNBC. She's not under the control of the White House, supposedly, and suddenly she's changed her tune. Listen, let me continue with Tulsi Gabbard because this was just, to me, telltaling, right? She said that she'd long been previously attacked by leading Democrats like your good friend, Stuart, Hillary Clinton, who accused her of being a Russian apparatchik. Okay, and said she decided it was time to break with a group now controlled, quote, by an elitist cabal of warmongers driven by cowardly wokeness. Hey, Sass, I didn't say the word. This is from Tulsi Gabbard. She says, quote, the wokeness has helped create a world where Americans are afraid to speak their mind and fear real repercussions for having unpopular beliefs. The last I checked, the communists and the Nazis did this to the people. Conform or be canceled. She said, quote, the whole environment of fear that those in power, these elite in power, have fermented to where people are afraid to speak the truth. They're afraid to exercise their right to free speech because, hey, you might lose your job. You might be canceled. You might be trashed. And God forbid, in Washington, you might not be invited to the cool kids' parties. So here's the thing. We were talking about a threat to democracy. I'm not. If you're saying the Republicans are threatening democracy, then so are Democrats. So let's just put it to this, okay? The political system, your system sucks, okay? But politics today in 2020 isn't about fact, isn't about putting policies out in front to help people. It's about getting elected and, as you said, stepping on the throats of your opponent to win. And it doesn't matter what you say or how you say it, because it's okay, Democrats. It's not over the Republicans. So then something ain't jiving here, man. Something just doesn't jive.
David, like I said, just because it's called the Democratic Party, like I gave the example on Wednesday about the name of the Hitler Party, right? The Socialist Workers Party, had nothing to do with fascism by name or title, nor does the Democratic Party have anything to do with being democratic. And I guess the point I want to drive home is the Democratic Party isn't the Democratic Party of the 1960s and
Funny you say
1970s.
that. Funny you
Why
say
do
that
I
because
say that?
Tulsi
Yeah,
Gabbard,
because you
because
know what?
Tulsi, hold on,
Because
Tulsi Gabbard said the same thing.
social justice was really introduced in part by the Democratic Party. That wasn't democratic. That was actually a socialistic plan or a socialistic offering. We're just putting it out there. Listen,
Stuart, Tulsi Gabbard actually agreed with you because she said that contemporary liberals are not the same as their 20th century brethren. And they do not believe in live and let live, but instead want to destroy anyone who disagrees with them through silencing, slander, intimidation, or this is a direct quote from Tulsi Gabbard. She says they are against freedom of religion. They are hostile to people of faith. Now, what happened? Because if you recall, many of these Democrats were card carrying Christians who believed in God and believed in religion, albeit sometimes not, if you were Jewish or Muslim, they didn't believe in you, but they believed at least in some sort of form of Christianity. And today that's completely gone. And so sorry to all you, listen, my father's generation, Stuart, your father's generation, okay, who grew up on Kennedy, who grew up on those, this is not your party. Stop believing this, okay? Don't believe that Joe Biden is John Kennedy. Don't believe that Barack Obama is John Kennedy. Come on.
Listen, Obama was one of the most powerless social organizers that has in the modern day ever been in Washington, D.C. He's a social organizer, and a very good one. And I'll be honest with you, he is a meddler. How do you become a multi-zillionaire being a public office? I think there should be term limits. I think there should be wage limits. I think there should be borrowing from industry post working in government. And I think if you're not willing to do it for the love of the country, you shouldn't do it at all.
Stuart, like what you're saying right now is like if you put like the Democrats right now, we're talking about all this electoral reform and social reform and all these things, but they won an election and they said, well, we don't need to change the electoral reform. We're good. Republicans do the same thing. So I'm tired of listening to only a one-sided remark by Democratic lovers like certain family members who continue to persist that the Republicans are the threat to democracy, that that Republicans are racist, that the Republicans want to destroy the Union. This January 6th hearings, that people are upset. Did you hear this, Stuart? People are upset in the Democrat and liberal media because they care more about gas prices than the January 6th hearings. Did you hear that? So you're telling me
calling them hearings would involve that they were fair and reasonable. They're not hearings when you have an ABC producer. It's the title of a short story.
Stuart, that's not my point. My point is, listen to what the Democrats are saying. That the January 6th hearing, whatever we want to call it, the lynch mob that is this January 6th hearing, I want to understand one thing. Is that more important than the freaking than helping people put food on the table, paying for gas? No, apparently not. It's all about crucifying the Republican Party. So tell me where The democracy is threatened by the Republicans. I don't get it. Ladies and
I don't get it.
gentlemen, I'm just getting rid of the steam. So I want to thank you all very much for another fabulous week. We will be back next week. Look out for a pre-recorded session of the Rant Network on Monday, as it is another holiday. And we will be back live on Wednesday. Folks, have yourself a wonderful weekend. Stay well. Stuart, let's say goodbye.
David,